needs to change things up, try something new. Byram and White on the wings, Ross and Dufert central attacking midfield, Varney and Ross McCormack up top. What do we think about
Well,
that?
I'll tell you what, I might not agree with it all, but I would definitely give Sam Byron a go in midfield area, see if he can perform in there.
Right midfield.
Yeah, because you've got a bit of talent, a bit of quality to go forward. I mean, the one thing I would never criticise Brian's team for, and the players that are playing for his team just now, is their commitment and their effort and their work rate. But it's just having that bit of quality. I mean, the thing about it is, if you're playing a side and they work as hard as you, and they've got more talent than you, and more technically gifted, they're going to beat you if they work as hard as you. Doesn't make a difference how hard you work. You work hard, but you keep giving the ball away, and you've not got that extra bit of quality in the last third. You're not going to win games. You're going to end up losing them. It's like their third goal of the day. I don't know if you've seen it, Michael.
No.
The young boy, Will Hughes, gets the ball. It's knocked out left. He glides into a midfield area, picks it up about 25 yards for goal, runs at Jason Pearce, just gets by him and bends it in the back of the net. How many times do we see us scoring goals like that? And it looks that simple.
Not this season.
Well, because the boys get quality. That's the difference.
Calder on Twitter says the fans are trying, but how much can Brian McDermott expect us to stomach this week in, week out? Patience is wearing a bit thin, unfortunately. Wayne talking about changes, says we need a couple of decent strikers, a winger and a creative midfielder. Very poor mid-table team at present. And here's an interesting one for you, Eddie. Patrick says, when does Brian McDermott start to take some blame? No idea on his best 11, poor signings, not good enough.
Well, I still think Brian's trying to work out, what his best, 11 is, and people will question it. There's no doubt, but that's the nature of being a manager at a football club, and Brian knows that. I mean, take for example, Noel Hunt. Brian brings him to the football club. He's not really done it yet, but he must be showing Brian something in the staff. They must know he's got something to offer. Today again, never done a lot. But you could say the same for quite a lot of the players in the lineup, And I agree with it. I still think he's tinkering. I still think he's tinkering with his side. I mean, I think one of the reasons they never changed the side today is because we got a victory the other day against Bournemouth, and you were at the Bournemouth game, Michael.
Yeah.
It wasn't enthralling, was it?
Not really.
It wasn't a great stuff, but we won the game.
What we all said after that game, and I think you'd probably back me up here, is that has maybe disguised quite a few of the deficiency. The result was good.
Of course it did. But that performance never made everybody think,
we're on to something.
We're on a run. I mean, it was a victory. It was needed. And, I think today's result shows it was needed, you slipped down that table further.
6 defeats in 6 it hadn't won on Tuesday.
Well, we did win the game. That was the most important thing. But when you think it, it's 5 out of 6 now, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's no great for them, And I think what's happened, Michael, for the start of the season, I think Brian realised we were going to have to be tight and tough and hard to beat, and we were hard to beat. And I says at the start of the season we were hard to beat. Now, as soon as we've tried to play a more expansive game, and he has tried that, with a 2 up top and, trying Pauline in the team and Matt Smith, has tried to, progress from an offensive point of view, then we've suffered because we're not really good enough yet. And I think Brian, will be thinking about that himself. Diaghi back just to think, right, let's just get people behind the ball and let's just battle away and see if we can scrape a game. Sometimes it's not the best to watch, but I think when we tried to play the day against them, getting at them, they proved to be superior to us when they were going forward.
The Noel Hunt thing's an interesting one. You've touched on it there.
Yes.
Liam Mowbray on Twitter says, disappointing again. Brian McDermott needs to get a grip, make some new signings. Hunt poor again. We need a goal scorer. And so many people sort of emailing us and tweeting us saying, what is it the manager is seeing in Noel Hunt that he keeps starting him?
Well, that's that's something. Listen, Michael, I'm like the fans, and funny enough, Noel Hutton spoke to me after a game. He says, I just don't know what's wrong with me. I just can't seem to get it going. The player's honest enough to know it's not happening for him. I know I'm saying it's not happening for him. But what I do say, Brian's an experienced manager and his staff are experienced. They must see something in him that the reason, that they keep starting him. They must be showing something that they think, he's the man to put on the team. Now, I can understand what the fans are saying because it's not happened for the boy yet. And sometimes footballers go through periods like that. Whether it is ever going to happen from, I mean, we said the same thing exactly with Steve Morrison last year, didn't we?
And Billy Painter before
Yeah,
that.
it never happened for them at a football club, and sometimes that happens. But you're right. I mean, once again, you look and you think, well, what was the contribution? And once again, it took him off. You know. So these are things that the manager will be looking. Listen, when football teams aren't getting results and things aren't going right at the football club, and funny enough, I think Brian must be in the dressing room having a talk to the players just now because he's not come out to see the media yet. And he'll be in there. He might be having a go at them. He may be trying to explain things to them, why he thinks we lost the game, trying to pick out the good points, the bad points in the game. And every player, will know. And Brian will be in there talking to them about their individual performances. And some of the individual performances weren't good enough for us to win the game. Now, listen, people go on about no Hunt, like the day, right? But what about our defenders today? I mean, at times they were walking through us. I mean, defending wasn't good enough today either. And, in the midfield area, we weren't, what I would say, creative or dynamic, at times they burst at us with pace and you think, dear, we're in trouble here. Not that many times in the game when we get the ball and we're running at teams, you think, oh, they're under real pressure. It's all like huff and puff and, just, I think, as I says, Michael, I think if Brian had carte blanche, there'd be a lot of players at the football club that wouldn't be here if you want to go forward. And to go forward, I mean, have a chance of promotion. Now, I think Brian will be working his socks off to try and put things right with the players he's got, and it may happen. When you watch games like today, and you've watched games like the Millwall game, even the Bournemouth game that we won, you think, well, I can't see it happening. So we'll just have to wait and see if Brian can pull Indy in and this, international break. We'll have a little break. Now, we were talking before the game, Michael, about it'd be nice to get a victory. I didn't think we would win the game today. I thought we might have got a point today. I was going for a point, and I must be honest, I was going for a point more in hope than 100% conviction, But I thought we could have done it, but, as soon as, after about 10, 15 minutes of the game, I thought, it's going to be hard for us to get anything out of this game today because they just had that bit more quality.
Had word from Tom in the dressing room area that Brian McDermott still hasn't emerged, but we'll stay here until he does. We will hear on LUTV Live from the Leeds United boss this evening. 0871 521 2288. We've spoken to Eddie in Abu Dhabi. Let's head to East Yorkshire next, and Derek's there. Derek, good to speak to you as ever this evening. You're through to Eddie at Pride Park. What points would you like to make this evening?
Hi, Derek.
Well, I'm sorry to ring you up.
No, you're okay.
I was there on Tuesday, and let's be honest, Eddie, I think if they hadn't gone down to the men, I don't know if we'd have won that match.
I agree with you. I agree.
And it seems today, once again, like we was talking last week, that the central midfield, we just don't get control of it. If them players are there to protect the back four, that ain't happening. The first goal was given away. Was it the first or second goal? Green gave the ball away
for the first.
I mean, it's just. I mean, the other thing, every time we clear the ball from defence, it's always, into touch and things like that, whereas other teams seem to clear it to one of their players and build attack.
Yeah, I'll just interrupt you there. That's one thing that has annoyed me. Yeah. The number of times we get the ball in the back and it just gets knocked up the pitch.
Yeah.
And gets into touch. And I'm not talking about when players are in tight situations and it's a sort of a last gasp thing. I'm talking about when they get control of the ball.
Yeah.
And looking up the pitch. I mean, it happened in a number of occasions a day, and I'm thinking, well.
Because all you're doing is inviting pressure on yourself.
Yeah, I know. But see, that's having the quality to keep it in the pitch.
Yeah. It's pretty. I mean, we did all right sort of beginning of the season, but let's be honest. I mean, if that last-minute goal against Reading, has seemed to have destroyed any confidence the team had.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing about it is I've says, you've got to be playing well and in a positive manner, because if you're not really playing well, you don't really get control of games. And there's games that we never really had control of the Brighton game, the first game of the season.
No.
We scored a goal in injury time, which obviously, everybody knows it was a handball to Luke Murphy. But you take the Sheffield Wednesday game. We never had control of that game at home. We never had control of the QPR game at home. Although we did okay. That was a battling game. Then, your other games you've played, the Burnley game, I thought Burnley were a lot better side than us. That's all I can say about that game. And, we've played games where we've not really had control of games. And if you've not got control of games, you're always going to be struggling, Derek. But the point you were making about giving the ball away cheaply, that you're right, that happens far too often.
Yeah.
Far too often.
But it doesn't seem to happen with other teams, does it?
Well, that's the quality of the players, though. That's the thing about it. I mean, that's the quality of the players. I mean the funny thing about it is, that's one thing the manager can't do anything about.
No.
If a player's got the ball and he's trying to kick it 30 yards or 40 yards down the pitch and it goes out the park, when you're under no pressure whatsoever. I mean, I did say to Tom Kirwan when we were talking on LUTV the other day, the number of times we get balls and just knock them out the park as if that's job done.
Yeah.
But what you're doing there, you're handing the ball, possession of the ball back to the opposition.
Yeah.
And that's something that, even as a defender, you've got to think about, especially when you're a defender and your team are losing goals or you're under pressure.
Yeah. I mean, is it worth? I know this is thing, but going with three at the back, trying to win back.
We can see the thing about footballers, and somebody mentioned it, already. The previous caller, Eddie. You can talk all you want about systems and formations. You've got to have the players. I mean, you might play a system, and the players, they might not be good enough.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make a difference what system you play. Then you come in and think, well, that system never worked.
Yeah.
And it's not really the system. It's the players. I mean, when you play football, the way I was brought up to play football, if we lost the ball, right, I had to get myself in a defensive situation.
Yeah.
If we win the ball, I get into an attacking situation where I think I can hurt other teams.
Yeah.
And it's the same. And if the ball was, and I was playing left side, and the ball was near left side, about 30, 40 yards for our goal, Terry Cooper would be around in the cover, protecting Jack and Big Norman, and I'd be tucked in, basically in a semi-left back position.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make any difference about systems. You just fill in. Like if we're short in midfield area, say Billy Brenner had went forward or Giles would went forward. One of the strikers, maybe me or Peter Lorne, would tuck in, Paul Mailey would tuck into that midfield area. It's just movement and thinking about the game. So actual systems.
I said last year, and I'm still thinking this, and I know people, Tom's has different views on it, but I still don't believe that Kenny commands his goal area enough from crosses and from corners and stuff like this.
Yeah,
I don't think the back two or the back four or what you say have enough. He's brilliant shot stopper.
Yeah.
He's good at.
He's very good at shot stopper. Yeah. I agree with you.
But commanding the penalty.
No.
I mean, and that's when the biggest pressure is on the team.
Yeah. Well, if you've seen the game today, you've seen the trouble they were having there with their goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Nearly every cross we knocked into the box, it was panic stations. We just never done it enough for
so
decent
why didn't
areas.
We just persist with it, Eddie? Do you know what I
mean? we just not get enough of the ball and enough good balls in there. I think that's a problem. I mean, you can still. You've got to knock balls and put them under pressure, but they've got to be balls that are really hanging up against them, and no balls that are getting knocked in for 40 and 50 yards that central defenders are coming on, and strikers can only just flick them on.
Yeah. I mean, what we're saying here, Eddie, really, aren't we? We're talking about passing now. I mean, there's players on there that aren't good enough or not playing good enough.
They're not good enough to get promotion.
No. So it's a case of we need new personnel, or whichever way.
Well,
you like.
I did say earlier, Eric, and I says to Eddie, the thing about it is if Brian carte blanche, and no managers get that.
No.
And the thing about, see, I've said many times before, and you've probably heard me, you just can't keep bringing football players into the club if they're not moving on. You've got to move players on, and that's the most difficult thing, and I was saying this the other night to a group. It's the most difficult thing when players are on contracts to move them on, because there's no many players at our football club, and we've got to be realistic about this. There might only be, I don't think there'd be a handful that had been moving up the way.
No.
Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly.
So they're getting decent money out of football clubs. So they may have to go to, teams that are known as, as big a club as Leeds United or a lower division, and they're not going to get the same wages. So to move them on, that's what we trouble like that in the past to our football club. We have, letting players go but paying half their wages and lasting for years, and that's a difficult thing for Brian to move players on.
Thanks very much to Derek. And Derek, no need to apologise about giving us a call. It's always good to speak to you, even if you did sound a bit exasperated.
Well, like a few years, Michael.
A few of us, exactly.
I've got to be honest, you're sitting here watching a game. I mean, I thought the Leeds United fans were great today, again. Because there must have been periods during that game when they must have thinking, well,
what are we doing?
We have no chance of winning the game. Especially when they went top. I thought they could have led to their own downfall today. Because they started to sit a little bit deeper, as if they think, what I've got to remember, this is the first, I keep talking about other sides. This is the first game Derby County have won at home this season. So what does that say about us? When they were far superior to us? I mean, Ipswich were 4-1 up here the other night and drew 4 each, I know, but we never looked as if we'd go 1 up here.
Just want to go through some of the results elsewhere in the Sky Bet Championship this evening. Birmingham 1, Bolton 2, that was the lunchtime kickoff. Bournemouth 5, Millwall 2. Burnley 2, Reading 1. Charlton finished goalless with Blackpool. Doncaster 1, Leicester 0. Huddersfield 1, Watford 2. Middlesbrough 4, Yeovil 1. Morale boosting victory that for Tony Mowbray's side. QPR 2, Barnsley 0. Sheffield Wednesday 1, Ipswich 1. So just looking at the Sky Bet Championship table before we return to the emails and the tweets. Burnley top of the pile as we go into the international break. With Queen's Park Rangers second in the table. Remember Brighton against Forest, though, to kick off at 5:30 in around about 3 minutes' time. Leicester, Watford, Blackpool and Nottingham Forest then in the top 6 at the moment. Forest could still go higher than the 6th position that they're in at the moment, but they won't trouble the top 2 even if they beat Brighton. You have to go to the bottom half of the table. Leeds 13th now in the table, 14 points, a -3 goal difference, played 11. Let's read some of the emails before we hopefully hear from Pride Park from Brian McDermott. We will speak to him at some stage soon. Mark Heath's been in touch, says Eddie on email. He says a quarter of the season gone. So far very poor all round. It's the same old story. Lack of pace, lack of ability. It's no change from last season. There are a lot of other teams in this league that have no money, very small crowds and income, that are playing much better football than Leeds. I thought Brian would have had a bigger and quicker impact on the style and the fortunes of Leeds United. Mark Heath in Southampton there for you, Eddie.
Yeah, you've got to have the personnel, I mean, that as a manager, you stand or fall by your decisions. That's the same way any manager. It's early days for Brian yet. He'll be looking to improve the personnel at the football club, but it might just take a little bit of time for Brian to get what he wants in here,
Dave in France, listening online on LUTV, says he can't believe the manager is seemingly under pressure. McDermott is the best manager Leeds could have. Yep. And let's just...
Listen, I don't think the manager's under pressure. He's under pressure for the point of view that we're not doing well. But I don't think he's under any sort of pressure whatsoever, for his job. I mean, I think he's 10 years only starting here at the football club. That's how I'd like to look at it. The thing about it is that, see, what happens at a football club, you bring players into the football club. Now, Brian has brought, is it 4 players in the football club? Wooten, Murphy, Hunt and Matt Smith. There's only one of them playing a day. So that's what he'll be looking at that as well and thinking, right, okay, I've got to do something about that.
The Navan Whites say, I agree with McDermott's comments recently. We need to focus on the players that we have, but my opinion is that Peltz, Pearce, Greentong and Hunt need to go. Andrew Claridge says Brian McDermott needs to work hard this international break and get his team some help. And I'll read this email from Stephen Horseman as well. Just says, we've got the best manager in the league. He's rebuilding a team with next to no cash. That takes time. It's not an overnight thing. And I think the key thing, the difference this season is Brian McDermott did say be patient. This season things would take time. He didn't promise a quick fix this year, but Leeds fans not necessarily, and especially after the semi-decent start they had, not necessarily going to accept that so much.
Well, Leeds United fans will never accept that, Michael. You know, that's pie in the sky. No, listen, this team we played today, we're getting some stick. Like, I was watching highlights of the game against Ipswich. The one I've heard them getting booed off at half time when they were 4-1 down. Derby, you know. I mean, no fans now. You don't get that type. You know, football's an expensive thing, a hobby to go and watch now. You know, so the fans think, well, we're paying all this money, they should be performing. That's how it is. I mean, and I don't think that will change in football now. So if we don't get results, the football club are going to be under pressure. You know, manager, players, coaches, you know, everybody's going to be under pressure. And the one thing you want to be, and somebody mentioned there's not that many teams in the Championship, Michael, have got a lot of money. You know.
Certainly not money that they're splashing about at the moment.
Well, that's right. So everybody's in the same boat. You know, like, I mean, some clubs make big turnovers of players because, you know, the staff that they've got, they might not be on great money, you know, and, you know, they can afford to get rid of players or contracts are up. You know, we've got a lot of players here that are under contract that Brian will find difficult to move on. And that's when it becomes a bit of a problem.
David Hesketh on Twitter. David tweeted us at half-time, tweeted us again at full-time. This is a point that we've kind of already covered, but I'll read it out because it says it very well here. It says, if Derby have too much quality, what does it say about us? Derby are an average side. And Johnny Brown says, if the chairman thinks his 2-year plan is going to work, then he seriously needs to think again. It's more like another 10-year plan. Well, I think we just got word there from Tom Kerwin in the tunnel area. He's now ready with Brian McDermott.
Ready when you are, sir.
Well, Brian, can you give us your verdict on your team's performance today and the result?
Well, I'll give you my verdict on the last 21 games away from home, or 26 games. Previous to us arriving, we'd won one game in 21. And then we won some games away from home. We won at Watford, we won against Ipswich, we won against Bolton. And then the last 2 games against Millwall, we were too nice and got beaten up. And today, for whatever reason, we played our best football on the halfway line, which is pretty irrelevant, really. And we weren't good enough in both boxes.
With regard to the game and, you know, getting that goal back before half-time, are you disappointed with the way your side came out second half and not really capitalised on a bit of momentum that you'd got?
Look, the bottom line is that you can't be giving 1 goal away, 2 goals away. We've been up one goal in front in 2 games this season, that's all. So that's something that's obviously a major issue to us, and we need to become more solid, more difficult to play against, more difficult to beat.
Do the players that you've currently got, are they able to do that, right?
Well, they've done it before, so there's no doubt about it, they can do it. So we need to just get away, and we've all sat in that dressing room and had the conversation. And I'm not distancing myself from the players, the staff aren't distancing themselves from the players. Derby have had a good day today, and we haven't had a good day today, and we have to put it right against Birmingham.
What have you said to the players, Brian?
We've had a conversation in there, a long conversation, half an hour of talking.
And obviously the outcome of that was what you wanted?
We'll see. You know, the outcome is only what you want when you see it on the pitch. You know, a lot of people do their talking off the pitch, but we have to start doing our talking on the pitch, and let's see if we can do that against Birmingham.
I sense obviously frustration from the players' performance, you know, from your point of view here, Brian.
There's frustration from all of us, but this hasn't been going on here at this club for the last 11 games. You know, you look back at the last 21 games, or how many games we're talking about. So we have to find a way in the next how many games that we've got to play to get it right, and it makes me even more determined.
Well, you spoke about obviously finding a way with this team and, you know, tinkering with it a little bit week to week. I mean, is that something a process that you envisage is going to take a bit longer?
I don't know. I think it's going to take, you know, every team is in a process. Every team's got that process of trying to find ways of winning. At the moment, we're not in a consistent run of winning football matches, which is really tough to take and frustrating, but we have to find that way.
And confidence, I mean, is that taking a hit with the results?
I don't think, you know, we won the game on Tuesday. that wasn't so much about confidence today. That was just more mentality. We have to get the right winning mentality, and that's what we're trying to do.
And going into the international break on the back of this, I mean, how are you going to sort of use the next 2 weeks on the training?
We'll do what we've got to do. We'll train. We'll try and find some players if we can, and we'll work with the team that we've got.
And with regard to the season, Brian, and looking ahead, I mean, some fans are getting in touch and talking about just staying up will be a success this year. I mean, is that how you're sort of looking at things now?
No, I'm completely and utterly looking at what we need to do to get ourselves better and make sure we get the right outcome against Birmingham. I'm as frustrated as anybody. I've been here 19 games. That's all I've had, and it's a short period of time, and there's no one wants to do this more than me.
Right, McDermott speaking to Tom Kerwin, clearly frustrated Leeds United manager, and Eddie and Tom listening into that. Their final thoughts before we head off for the international break. Manager's got a bit of work to do, he says, in the next fortnight.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about it, Michael. And I says earlier, Brian McDermott knows that. The performance is only good enough. He knows that himself. So he'll be working with a group of players he's got. He says, and you heard Brian saying there, that the players can do it. That's what he says. Because I've done it before. To what extent they've done it before, I'm not sure. I think they were hard to beat. But as soon as things go a little bit wrong, then, the teams are a little bit more quality getting top of you, and, you don't win games. I mean, Millwall beat us. Now, Millwall have got beat 5 a day. They get beat 4 last week after we played them. So we've got to look at that. We were playing against Millwall, who were below us, and Derby County, and I think Brian will know that. I think what Brian knows, that he's got a group of players, and in the main, he's got to get the best out of that group of players, because there'll not be a lot coming in. That's how I read the situation, Tom.
I think that Brian McDermott was very keen to point out there that he hasn't had a lot of time with this group of players. I think what he's trying to do there is just calm down any pressure that might be starting to creep up, and I think there is pressure just given the run of results, 5 defeats in 7 in the league. But what I would say is that he says the players, I agree with Eddie that I look at whether players can do it over a consistent period of time. And this group of players, you look at the starting 11. Yes, Mowatt's come in for the academy. He wasn't there last season. Yeah. Noel Hunt started. That's it. Yeah. Now, the rest of the team were here last season, and they didn't perform last season away from home. And we're talking about a win at Ipswich, which could have been over by after half an hour. A win at Bolton. There just hasn't been enough of it. And the problem is today, we looked at a Derby team who I think most Leeds fans coming down to the match, they are listening to us, would have thought maybe about on a level with mid-table. That's where they're going to be. They absolutely, I thought, wiped the floor with Leeds in the final third, and that's the problem.
To be fair, I think Brian said that.
Yes,
both final thirds.
Yeah.
I mean, I says to you, Tom, during the game when it was 1-0, well, I hope we got a goal back quick, because we can't stop them from scoring again. When we got the goal back, I says to you at half time, well, I still think they'll score, because we just didn't look as if we could defend against them.
Part of the problem we look like is we're hoping to score. We're hoping things go off.
That's
whereas Derby had a plan. They know exactly what they're doing. They're slick the way they play.
Well, they know they've got the players, Tom.
And they've got the players. And that's ultimately a problem. And too many of these players in the Leeds United team have had a long time now at the club, and they haven't shown that they can do it just yet. But I understand Brian McDermott's point of view.
I do.
Because Brian McDermott came in, and he wasn't able to shift 15 out and bring in 13 or whatever he wanted to do. He couldn't do it.
I just said that to Collins previously. The toughest thing for Brian McDermott, and I did say there'd be a lot of players at the football club just now wouldn't be here if Brian were the carte blanche to do it. But we can't move players, Tom, that are on contracts for the wages they're getting.
And a manager can't come into a club when players are earning the wages they're earning and fall out with them and just cast them aside. He's got to try and use them. He's got to try and keep them close. But I think he would have made more changes over some. But look, it's been and gone. The point is, the question Leeds fans will be asking is Brian McDermott getting the most out of the players that are out there, and are the players good enough this season, to do?
Well, I think he's got